It was supposed to be a quiet Saturday morning in Willow Creek Estates, the kind of place where the lawns were trimmed to perfection and the homeowners association ruled like a miniature government. The gated community prided itself on order, control, and appearances, but that illusion shattered the moment a man in a cheap security uniform pulled a gun on my daughter. I was trimming the hedges when I heard shouting near the main gate. My daughter, Claire, had just returned home from her morning run. Dressed in a grey hoodie and leggings, she looked like any other jogger. But apparently, that wasn't good enough for the self-appointed security chief of the HOA, a man named Martin Briggs. "What are you doing in here?" Briggs barked, gripping his sidearm like he was patrolling a war zone. His gut hung over his belt, and his sunglasses reflected the late morning sun. Claire froze, hands raised slightly. "I live here," she said calmly, breathing hard from her run. "My parents live at 1459 Willow Bend." Briggs sneered. "Don't play games with me. I've never seen you before. You think you can just sneak in here?" By the time I reached them, my heart was pounding. "Briggs, what the hell are you doing?" I shouted. He turned, gun still pointed at my daughter. "Stay back, sir." This woman refused to identify herself. "She's my daughter, you idiot," I yelled, rushing forward. "Put that gun down before you do something you'll regret." But Briggs didn't lower his weapon. If anything, his hand trembled more. "Sir, I'm authorized by the HOA to—" "Authorized to what? Shoot residents," I snapped. The scene had drawn attention. Neighbors peeked from their windows, recording on their phones. Claire's voice stayed calm, almost too calm. "Sir," she said softly, "you're making a mistake. I'm reaching for my ID slowly. Don't move that trigger." Briggs twitched. "Don't you dare." But she moved anyway, smoothly, deliberately, pulling out a slim black wallet. When she flipped it open, the gold badge caught the sunlight like fire. FBI Tactical Division. The silence that followed was deafening. Briggs's face went white, his jaw slack. You're FBI?" "Supervisory Special Agent Claire Monroe," she said, stepping forward now, her tone suddenly steel. "And you just pointed a firearm at a federal officer in a residential zone." The gun trembled in his grip. I didn't know." "You didn't care to know," she cut him off. "You profiled me because I wasn't wearing tennis jewelry and a sun hat like your neighbors. You pulled a gun without cause. That's a felony." I'd seen my daughter in uniform before, but I'd never seen this version of her. Eyes sharp, voice precise, command radiating from every movement. The same girl who used to chase frogs behind the creek now had a man shaking in his boots. Briggs tried to stammer an excuse. "The HOA told us to watch for outsiders. There have been burglaries." Claire stepped closer. "And you think a burglar comes in through the front gate, wearing running shoes and earbuds?" He lowered his gun, mumbling, "I was just doing my job." "No," she said coldly. "You were abusing authority you were never trained to have." By now, the HOA president, Marla Jenkins, came running, her heels clicking against the pavement. "Oh my God, what's going on?" "Officer Briggs, put that gun away." "He's not an officer," Claire replied sharply. "He's a civilian with a weapon, threatening residents under your direction." Marla blanched. I didn't know." "Save it," Claire said, sliding her badge back into her pocket. "I'll be filing a formal complaint with both the HOA board and local law enforcement. This isn't over." She turned to me, her voice softening instantly. "You okay, Dad?" I nodded slowly, still processing what had just happened. "You handled that like a professional." She smiled faintly. "It's my job." As we walked back home, neighbors whispered, recording, gossiping. The illusion of control the HOA had built was cracking right before their eyes. But Claire wasn't done. She'd seen the look in Briggs's eyes, that reckless arrogance that came from people who thought power meant control. And she knew this wasn't the first time he'd drawn that gun. It was just the first time he'd done it to the wrong woman. The morning after the confrontation, Willow Creek Estates looked deceptively peaceful again. The sprinklers hummed, kids biked toward the cul-de-sac, and the HOA newsletter arrived in mailboxes with its usual smug tone about community standards. But behind that calm, something ugly simmered. Claire sat at the kitchen table, sipping black coffee as she scrolled through local law enforcement databases on her laptop. Her jaw tightened. "This isn't just one guy with a gun, Dad," she murmured. "Briggs and his crew aren't even licensed security officers. They're operating under the HOA's budget, but there's no record of proper vetting, no background checks, nothing." I looked over her shoulder, stunned. "You mean the HOA hired Civilians with firearms? Exactly, she said, clicking through PDFs. Armed patrols, no state license. And the HOA president, Marla Jenkins, signed off on all of it. She closed her laptop and leaned back. That's not negligence, Dad. That's a liability nightmare. By noon, Claire was dressed professionally. Blazer, dark jeans, the faintest holster bulge under her jacket. She wasn't here as my daughter anymore. She was the FBI tactical commander investigating a domestic security threat. When she drove back to the HOA office, her badge wasn't hidden this time. The office receptionist nearly dropped her clipboard. Can I help you? Yes, Claire said calmly. Federal inquiry. I'm here to see Marla Jenkins. Marla appeared moments later, her usual chirpy voice replaced with a nervous tremor. Agent Monroe. Oh, this is unexpected. Let's skip the pleasantries, Claire said, laying a folder on the counter. Under federal code, you cannot employ armed personnel without state certification. Your security detail has violated at least 4 statutes, and one of them aimed a firearm at me yesterday. Marla paled. It was a misunderstanding. Claire opened a photo of Briggs holding his gun. This looked like a misunderstanding to you. Marla swallowed hard. Look, Agent Monroe, you have to understand. The board was under pressure. We've had trespassers, vandalism, so you decided to form your own militia. That silenced her. Claire's tone turned colder. You didn't hire professionals. You hired men you could control. Men who'd intimidate people you didn't like. Marla's lips tightened. This isn't how you think it is. Oh, it's exactly how I think it is, Claire said, gathering her folder. And I'm not done. Outside, Claire texted someone from the bureau. Run names on all HOA security members under Willow Creek Estates Management, she wrote. Seconds later, the response buzzed in. 2 with prior assault charges. 1 dishonorably discharged ex-soldier. 1 under investigation for illegal arms dealing. Claire's stomach turned cold. Armed and unlicensed, she muttered. Perfect storm. That evening, she met me on the porch. The sun dipped low, casting long shadows over the perfect lawns. Dad, she said softly, I think something bigger is happening here. What do you mean? Briggs and his crew. They're not protecting homes. They're protecting someone's operation. There's money being laundered through the HOA's maintenance fund, the unregistered firearms, the private patrol contracts. They're cover for something else. I felt my pulse rise. You're saying criminal activity? Exactly. Organized crime using an HOA as a front. And now they know I'm investigating. She glanced toward the street, where a dark SUV idled too long near the mailbox before driving off. Her eyes narrowed. They're watching, I swallowed. What are you going to do? Claire looked back toward the gate where Briggs had threatened her. Her face hardened, every trace of warmth gone. I'm going to burn this operation down, legally, surgically, and publicly. But first, I need proof. As the first night wind brushed through the pines, she slipped her badge back into her jacket and whispered almost to herself, They think they can intimidate me. Let's see how they handle federal intimidation. But what she didn't know yet, someone inside the HOA was already planning to silence her before she could. Night settled over Willow Creek like a blanket of quiet deception. The manicured lawns and decorative streetlights gave the illusion of safety, but Claire could feel the tension humming beneath the surface. She'd spent the entire day digging through HOA financial records, tracing every expense that seemed out of place. Now, her laptop screen glowed faintly against the darkness of her home office. Maintenance fund, overdrawn by $140,000, she murmured, scrolling. Security expenses paid to a shell company named Redline Protective Services. Her fingers flew across the keyboard, tracing the payment trail through 3 dummy accounts before stopping cold. Registered in Nevada, under a man named Franklin M. Dawes. The name meant nothing to me, but Claire's eyes narrowed. Dawes. Ex-contractor for a private military firm, suspended for weapons trafficking 5 years ago. She closed the laptop with a snap. This isn't just an HOA scandal. This is federal. Before dawn, Claire drove her unmarked SUV to a small property on the outskirts of the neighborhood, a storage facility leased under Redline Protective Services. The place was deserted, its chain-link gate padlocked. She slipped on gloves, checked her weapon, and used a lockpick with surgical precision. Inside, her flashlight beam cut through the darkness, revealing crates stacked to the ceiling. She opened one, military-grade rifles, suppressors, and body armor. Another crate contained unregistered handguns and counterfeit HOA badges. Her breath caught. "They're stockpiling illegal weapons under a residential community," she whispered, right under everyone's noses. Before she could snap photos, headlights swept across the lot. She froze, ducking behind a crate. A black SUV rolled up, engine purring. 2 men stepped out. One of them was Martin Briggs. Briggs barked into his phone. "Yeah, I told Dawes we had a problem. That woman's FBI. She's snooping around, and if she keeps digging—" "Then we make her disappear," the other man interrupted. His voice was cold, practiced, military. Claire's pulse hammered in her chest. Her finger brushed the grip of her pistol, but she didn't move. The men unloaded boxes into the storage unit, talking freely. "We move the shipment tomorrow night. HOA's hosting that neighborhood barbecue. Perfect distraction." Briggs laughed nervously. "You sure the feds won't sniff around?" The other man smirked. "Not unless they want a firefight." When they finally left, Claire exhaled shakily. She took quick photos of the weapon caches, license plates and shipment codes, then slipped out silently into the night. Back home, she transferred the evidence to an encrypted drive and called her superior. "This is Special Agent Claire Monroe. I'm requesting a tactical support team for a covert sting. Location, Willow Creek Estates. High likelihood of organized arms trafficking." Her boss paused. "Copy that. You sure you're not too close to this one?" She stared through her window at the street lamps outside. "They pointed a gun at me in front of my father's house." "Yeah, I'm close, but I'm also the best shot we've got at stopping this before civilians get hurt." Later that evening, I found her sitting silently on the porch, her sidearm on the table beside her coffee. The same SUV from before cruised by again, slower this time. "They're watching us, aren't they?" I asked quietly. She didn't answer, only muttered, "Tomorrow night, Dad. It ends tomorrow." I swallowed hard. "You sure you'll have backup?" She gave a tight smile. "Oh, I'll have more than backup. I'll have justice." But deep down, even I could sense it. Tomorrow wouldn't end quietly. When you corner desperate men with guns, they don't surrender easily. And in a neighborhood built on control and fear, chaos was about to become the new HOA policy. The day of the neighborhood barbecue arrived under a sky too perfect to trust. The smell of grilled burgers and the hum of small talk filled Willow Creek's Central Park, but beneath the cheerful music, tension pulsed like an electric current. Every manicured hedge, every laughing neighbor, it all looked like camouflage for what Claire knew was coming. She stood near the refreshments tent, blending in among the crowd. Her civilian clothes concealed a tactical earpiece. To any onlooker, she was just another guest. But hidden in plain sight across the community, unmarked vehicles held FBI tactical response officers ready for her signal. At 7:12 p.m., a black SUV rolled past the park gate. Briggs was at the wheel, his jaw tight. In the passenger seat sat Franklin Dawes, the ex-mercenary. They drove toward the maintenance shed behind the tennis courts, exactly where Claire knew they would. She murmured into her mic, "Team Bravo, eyes on target. Prepare for intercept." From my vantage point near the grill, I saw her eyes darken with focus. "Dad, stay by the crowd," she whispered. "No matter what happens, don't move." I wanted to argue, but the steel in her voice made me stop. As the men entered the shed, Claire followed quietly, drawing her weapon. Inside, crates were already being loaded into an unmarked van. Dawes barked orders. "Move faster! We're leaving before dark." Then his gaze snapped toward the door. "You lost, sweetheart." Claire stepped into the light, badge raised. "FBI, drop your weapons and step away from the crates." Briggs froze. "It's her." Dawes' face twisted into a grin. "So the agent wants to play hero." He drew his pistol. The next seconds blurred into chaos. Shots rang out, echoing across the park. Parents screamed, diving for cover. Claire rolled behind a concrete barrier, returning fire with precision, each shot measured, controlled. Within moments, the FBI strike team swarmed in from both sides, moving like shadows. "Federal agents, drop your weapons." Dawes fired wildly, grazing one agent's vest before a stun grenade detonated near the van. The flash disoriented him long enough for Claire to advance, tackling Briggs and pinning him to the ground. "You like pulling guns on women?" she hissed. "How about facing one who shoots back?" Briggs whimpered, coughing as she cuffed him. Dawes tried to flee toward the gate, but 2 agents intercepted him, slamming him onto the asphalt. When the smoke cleared, half the neighborhood had witnessed the takedown. Phones were recording. Marla Jenkins stumbled forward, pale and trembling. "Agent Monroe, what is happening?" Claire turned, her gaze icy. Your security team was running illegal weapons through your HOA accounts. You funded organized crime under the guise of community protection. Marla's knees buckled. I didn't know. You didn't want to know, Claire said flatly. Ignorance isn't innocence. The FBI team secured the scene while Claire briefed local authorities. Her professionalism never cracked, but when she finally walked toward me, her shoulders sagged with exhaustion. I opened my arms, and she let herself rest against me for a long moment. It's over, I murmured. Not yet, she whispered. There'll be reports, hearings, indictments, but the hard part's done. As dusk settled, neighbors gathered, shaken but grateful. One elderly man said quietly, I thought she was just some jogger. Turns out, she saved us all. Claire smiled faintly, the corner of her mouth lifting. That's the funny thing about assumptions, she said. They only work until reality shows up. The following week, national headlines read, FBI agent foils arms trafficking ring hidden inside luxury HOA. Martin Briggs and Franklin Dawes faced multiple federal charges, and Marla Jenkins resigned in disgrace. Willow Creek slowly returned to its polished calm, but now the residents looked at the woman jogging through the streets with new eyes. To them, she wasn't just the neighbor's daughter anymore. She was the agent who ended the war they never knew existed before it reached their doorsteps.